How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. In isolation here in Greece, trying to
Got you.
remain
You
positive.
you in Athens?
Yeah, I'm in Athens right now.
Got you. I miss
Yeah.
Athens a lot.
Where are you now?
I'm in Indianapolis.
How's the situation there?
It's not as bad as other places, of course, but I guess it could always be better everywhere.
hmm How are you dealing with everything that's going on right now?
Um, just going to the store and back home, going to work out every morning, then back home.
hmm Are you working out, staying in shape, or how do you? What's your daily schedule
Yeah.
look like now? There's no basketball going on.
Well, I've had a trainer out here in Indianapolis, Rob Blackwell,
hmm
for about 5 years, and he managed to get his hands on a private gym. It's actually a barnyard, but they refurbished it and made it into like a crazy gym. It's a crazy setup. So every morning I wake up around 7 a.m.
Well,
And then work out at 9 a.m.
hmm
and then go to the store, then come back home, quarantine all day, and then
Yeah.
start it over.
Yeah, so you've been able to practice with a basketball because the other players we had on, Shane Larkin and Kevin Pander, told me that they haven't been practicing for like 3 weeks now, and they're going
Gotcha.
crazy.
I know, I was in that same boat, but then one of the reasons, the biggest reasons I decided to leave Athens and actually come back to America, was because I would have the opportunity to work out. So it's kind of good getting that head start on everybody.
Yeah. So if EuroLeague does return, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm super ready. I hope I mean we'll get into that later, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super ready though.
Yeah. What do you? Yeah, because like everybody right now is patiently waiting for EuroLeague's decision. We're waiting. May 24th is the date that they have set.
Gotcha.
What do you think will happen? Where's your mindset right now?
Um, Man, I want it to come back badly, but I don't want to put anybody's health at risk, but
Yeah.
I hope that it returns and we're able to finish the season. I don't want the season to get canceled. I mean, if there's a way that we can do it and everybody can stay healthy, it doesn't look like it, but if we're able to do it, I hope that we can do that. And if not, maybe we cancel and we can start, the next season on time.
hmm So you think that if it's if it's safe, you'd like to see it come back. It's better than to just cancel it. You think, even
Yeah,
if you
for
have to
sure.
play in July.
Yeah, for sure. Man, July is tough. It just all depends on what the timetable is for next season. But
Yeah.
if it makes sense, if everything makes sense, then of course. But I don't want teams losing money and players have to take less money next year, or teams have to, crumble because of the
Yeah.
economy.
hmm Yeah. Yesterday's announcement. Uh, Yesterday's EuroLeague announcement said that if in fact the EuroLeague comes back, it will be completed in one venue with all
Hmm.
remaining regular season games, the six
Hmm.
rounds,
Hmm.
plus a final late tournament. How would you
Gotcha.
feel about that, given the fact that you were in a playoff race, one game back out of that eighth seed?
I mean, just to play basketball at this point, I think everybody, that's what we want to get back to. But if that's what they have slated, I would be extremely happy to return to Athens and, they pick a city, hopefully Istanbul, and then we can all go there and finish the games out. That's ideal, but, who knows?
hmm Are you staying in contact with your Olympiacos teammates?
For sure. We have a group chat. It's a lot going on. So every day we're either talking, somebody's talking about the payments or, whether the season will continue. And that's just kind of where we're at right now.
How are they processing the whole situation?
I think everybody's just in shock, even though we're getting used to it, because I don't think anybody could ever think that something like this could ever happen. So I just think everybody's just enjoying the time that they have with their family. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's super weird to be at home this much. I haven't been at
Yeah.
home this much in the last 15 years. So to
Well,
to to be here like this is crazy.
yeah. So you have some positives out of it, at least. You get to see
For
your
sure.
family, and yeah.
For
Uh,
sure.
let's talk a little bit about you and your year this year, your season this year, because I was looking through the stats. I'm reading them right now for our viewers. You started the season with Besiktas, obviously,
Hmm.
and in the Turkish league, you averaged 17.6 points per game, and in the PCL competition, you put up identical numbers, 16.6
Gotcha.
points per game. First of all, what sparked? What do you think sparked that jump from your prior years in Russia and Spain?
Um, I just think a different mentality, once I finally got to Gaziantep, I got married in Turkey. And once I got with my wife, basketball kind of went to the back seat. I was always excited to play, but
Hmm.
it didn't seem like the end of the world if I didn't have a good season. So once I took that pressure off of myself, I was able to play so much better. Because for me, let's say if I got injured and I had to go back home, to the States and never play basketball again, I, I, I became okay with the reality of that happening. So
Hmm.
then once that happened, I was just having fun after that.
So you think it was a matter of pressure, and that's it?
For sure. I mean, with every basketball player's pressure, especially when you have a couple good years and you want to keep outdoing the last year, you're going to have some down years in there. A down year for me was, I averaged 11 to 12 points. That's not a bad down year, especially playing in the top
Yeah.
leagues, but it just wasn't what I'm used to or what people are used to seeing me do.
Hmm. Was there at any time you said that's it? Like, I gotta return to the States. Were there any, like, down years that you considered going back?
No, I mean, it was just down years where mentally I was extremely messed up, and it was just like, especially in Russia, it's cold every day. We're just
Yeah.
I'm having to walk to practice. Going from Gran Canaria in Spain, where it's hot and humid,
Yeah.
to the snow in Russia was painful, but you learn a lot though.
Hmm.
What's up, Nemanja?
I just saw his comment. And then, during your final days with Besiktas, you had one crazy night. You exploded for 38 points versus Anadolu Efes.
Hmm.
To be honest with you, that was a game I was like, yeah, this guy definitely belongs in the EuroLeague. And I think that in many people's eyes, that was the same thing. How did that feel, scoring 38 and getting that overtime win against one of the best teams in Europe?
It felt unreal, but I mean, it felt normal at that time because I've been doing that, not to that magnitude, but every game that I was having in Champions League and the Turkish League was just building up to a really big
Hmm.
game like that. And to get out there and I get to, I didn't have that many points in the first quarter or at the beginning of the first quarter. It really all came in the last three quarters and overtime, and it was unreal. But for me, it was just another check or another box that I can check off to know that I'm capable of that. So as far as confidence and motivation, especially since against such a good team like Anadolu Efes,
Yeah.
um, so it felt amazing though.
Hmm. Was there anything in particular that stood out from that day? You remember, or I don't know, after the
Um,
game or before?
I mean, every game, it just really depends on the type of coffee that I have. Before every game, I drink a double shot of espresso, but maybe sometimes three or four or five. And it just really depends on which
Yeah.
Starbucks or which which hotel has the best coffee. And I think before that day, it was my usual Starbucks. We drove to the game. And some days I just feel it more than others. The energy is just flowing. But no, I'm not superstitious in that way, but I for sure got to have my my espresso before the games, every game.
Every game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
every game.
that's good to know. Okay, so what happens if you don't take your espresso?
Man, I'll be sluggish. It's like my focus isn't there. I think it's just really all a mental thing. But I don't know. It's never happened, so I hope it never happens for sure.
Okay, and then almost 10 days later from that game against Efes, you got your shot with Olympiacos, and you signed a deal until the end of next season.
Hmm.
You opted out of your contract with Besiktas, but at
Hmm.
first Besiktas wasn't willing to let you go. Can you take me back to those 10 days of trying to find a compromising solution? What was going through your mind at that time?
God, it was, I'm trying to think. It was, I remember it like it was yesterday, but it was just a lot of uncertainty.
Hmm.
I'm in Istanbul. I'm very familiar with Turkey. So, I'm not really worried at all. I'm not going back to the States. I'm just chilling here. Initially, I thought I was just going to sit out the rest of the season and just stay in Istanbul and work out and prepare for, next season coming up. But then Olympiacos came, and I thought the deal was going to happen, and it took like a week for the deal to actually happen. So
Yeah.
one minute I think I'm playing EuroLeague, and the next minute I think I'm just going to be sitting on the couch. So once the opportunity came, I just jumped at it, and like you said, um, if everything goes right, I will be playing at Olympiacos into the end of next season, and hopefully more years. So
Yeah.
hopefully everything works out.
Hmm. And then after arriving in Greece, you made quite an impression, at least in your first two EuroLeague games. especially against, all-time rivals, Panathinaikos. You put up 22 points. You had some couple of mean NBA-like dunks. Could these few weeks have gone any better for you after arriving in Greece?
I mean, it could have. I feel like against Anadolu Efes, the last EuroLeague game that I played, I only had 5 points, but
Yeah.
I got it. I understood it because, first game in Bessie Chacha, I had 25 points. Next game, I had 38. So I'm averaging close to 30 points, against them. So the third time we play, it makes sense that, that they would play me a little bit differently. But I'm glad that that's the last game that I had of the season, because now it's like I know how hard I have to work this summer to prevent that from happening again. But once I got to Athens and in that atmosphere and driving to the arena every day, it's the ocean and blue skies and the perfect weather. It just changes your morale, it changes your emotions. You want to be there. You want to play basketball. You want to get better. You want to stay in a city like this. So, I mean, I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Can you describe the atmosphere and how you felt during that game against the Panathinaikos? Have you seen anything like it in your career?
No, I mean, you really can't describe it. It's just really draining. Like, I just remember my hands shaking after the game for a couple of hours because it's just so much adrenaline rushing. It's so many emotions, it's so many people. It's just like, I don't understand how you put that many people in one gym, and, it's just all Olympiacos fans. And every day or close to every day I think about next year, I'm like, man, it's going to be hard to beat what I did this year, but I'm going to, and I'm looking forward to it.
And it's also motivation, I'm sure.
For sure. For sure.
How would you explain the Greek Classico to your American friends?
I mean, they see the videos, so they kind of understand just how crazy it is, because once you see all of those people just sitting in there, it's just like, it's wild. You really, it's one of those things where you have to be there to actually grasp how big of a deal it is. They got the guys, the fans in the coronavirus outfits. You got guys in the stands throwing stuff. It's a full net, 2 nets around the court. It's a lot of stuff that people don't see that, you got to be there to experience it.
Yeah, I have some American friends, and I was showing them some videos of these games, and they couldn't believe it. And once they got here in Greece, they went to one game and they were like, "This is unreal. I've never seen anything like it."
Gotcha.
So after that particular game, Hall of Fame coach, Panathinaikos' coach at the time, Rick Pitino, told the media that your pickup was one of the best ones he'd seen in EuroLeague. How did that feel when you heard a coach like Rick Pitino say something like that?
Hold on. What's good? Clutch Ricardo, my guy. That's my guy right there. The thing with the whole Rick Pitino thing is, like, my friend hit me up and he was like, Rick Pitino, if he like you, he really gonna, he'll talk about it. He rarely does that, but if he really likes you, he'll say something. And I'm just reading that article and it's just like, it doesn't feel real. Just like a lot of things this season, because when you go from thinking you're never gonna play EuroLeague into your first, your second game in EuroLeague, you're playing in front of all of these fans, and a Hall of Fame coach like that kind of gives you that stamp of approval. Is this game over? And it's the motivation and confidence that I needed to go into the offseason to say, not only do I want to get better next season, but I want next season to be, kind of similar to what Shane Larkin did this season, to where it's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
I can understand that. Before coming to Greece, did you have any idea about, did you know anything about the country or the teams here?
I played against PAOK a few times, in Champions League and preseason, but that was only in Thessaloniki. I never actually chilled in Athens. I played once in Athens, but no, until I got there. And then I got there and I was like, wow, it reminds me so much of Istanbul. It's just very slowed down. Istanbul's very high speed, so much traffic, so many people. But then you go to Athens and it's kind of like similar, but it's not as many people, it's not as much traffic, so right now Athens is my number one city, but Istanbul will always be my favorite city for sure.
And then let's talk a little bit about the next season, because we recently had a Eurohoops live show with your coach Barzokas, and he told us that he'll definitely keep you at the team for next year. What do you say to that, and what are your goals for next season with Olympiacos?
Man, me and coach is just like, it's something that just clicked, it's just like that's my coach. I played for, similar coaches in the past at Gaziantep, and Coach Dushko, Coach Ninad at Gaziantep. And I don't know why I'm just attracted to these type of coaches with my playing style. I don't want them to be kissing up to me or saying, you're this player, you're really good like this. I respond better to, you can get better here, you can get better here, you got to do this better, you got to do this better. And that's what coach does for me. So I'm just excited to, continue to play for him. And, with his defensive mentality and his offense, I just love the system that we're in. And his practices are fun.
Have you set any personal goals for next year?
Yeah, but I can't say it on the internet. just because I know how people are. But I have one goal and I have another goal if that goal happens. But, this is the first year where I get to spend 4 or 5 months, maybe potentially, waking up every single morning, no distractions, no anything, and just going to the gym and working out for a couple hours with one-on-one, just me and my trainer.
Now, before we get into the rapid fire questions and some fun questions I've collected, I want to take you back to your high school, college days, because I think they played a tremendous role in your career and in your success, even if they were considered down years. I truly believe that your story can inspire people, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because I don't know if everybody knows your story. And because recently I watched your documentary, which, I found very interesting, and I urge people to watch it. If you search Shaquielle McKissic documentary on YouTube, it will pop up. We can include it later in our story for our viewers to watch it, because I think it's really interesting to watch, and, they get to learn more about you. It really got me thinking, about your passion, determination, and everything, your mentality to turn things around. So obviously, for those who don't know, when you were 19, you served a 3-month sentence in prison, and you were on 2-year probation for throwing a rock in a house and running away from the police. What do you remember from, the day you threw a rock in someone's house and the police started chasing you?
Just how lucky I was. That's the biggest thing I take from the whole thing, because a lot of guys don't get to that point and get to have a normal life. Better yet, exceed everybody's expectations. And it's just kind of one of those things where I was just talking to my wife the other day, and she's asking me, like, why'd you do it? And I'm just like, you really don't have an answer for stuff like that, especially with it being so long ago. It's just like, I still don't know to this day, but, everybody goes through tough times in their life. For me, it was that. For somebody else, it's something else. And now for a lot of people, it's the coronavirus. And it's really just how you're going to respond, with every single thing, to just keep overcoming those mountains. Those times were hard, but even after I got a little bit of money and success, it was times that were just as hard.
How did you deal with that and eventually, get over it?
Man,
emotionally?
I think with everything that happened, I just really put my head down and just was grinding. And that's what this time reminds me of so much, because then all that mattered was basketball. I didn't have any distractions. And it's kind of like, right now, but that time in my life was the hardest I've ever worked in my life. And it's not even close. Like, it was waking up, and you seen the guy that I shouted out, Clutch Ricardo, because he was a part of it for a year. He got to see it. We went to the same junior college, and we were teammates. And it was just waking up in the morning, working out dribbles, go to class, come back for lunch. We're getting up shots. And at the end of, after all the classes in the evening, we have practice. And it was that way for so long, for almost 2 or 3 years. So it's just like, how do you not succeed when you work that hard, at anything?
When referring to your time, your time in prison, in the documentary, you said that it shaped you into the man you are today. What lessons did you learn in your time there in prison?
I mean, it was just a lot of things. It's just like, even to this day, like, I think this is the first year where I finally got comfortable, like, sleeping in an actual bed, with my wife, because it was just so many years where I was sleeping on the couch, going from this guy's house to this guy's house, guys that were letting me stay, and even staying, in jail, and, being uncomfortable to the point where uncomfortable just got comfortable for me. So it's like, for the past 4 years, I would just want to sleep on the couch, have a really big couch and just sleep there, just because you kind of get attached to that. So it's like, it's a lot of things that you learn. It's a lot of things that you see living that lifestyle that when you finally do get an opportunity to make something of yourself, you like, okay, I want to live this way. I don't want to live that way. I want to do this. I know that this works. I know that that works. And a lot of people just give up so quickly. But
Yeah.
when you're sitting in jail for that many days and it's just you and walls, it's nothing you can really do. It's nowhere you can run. And it just really kind of just shapes your mind into like, I don't know, into like this schedule or this pattern. And once you apply that pattern to anything, it usually works, you know, and that's just kind of how my mind is just clicked. And it kind of made me an introvert. It made me like the only time I really show myself is on my wife's YouTube page or, you know, when I'm doing lives with you.
Yeah.
But usually I'm just out of the way, you know, I don't really like to do too much or go too many places. But that's just me. And that's just how it, you know, that's just how the way that it turned out, you know.
And then after that, after your time there, correct me if I'm wrong, you stayed in Seattle in order to pursue your, you know, your basketball dream, and you know your family had to go back to Indiana. You enrolled at Edmonds Community College, but a year into your studies, your best friend passed away. Since then, you say that in the documentary as well. You dropped out of your classes, didn't have enough money, as you mentioned. Now you were sleeping, you know, in cars, in friends' houses, and etc. And you know, and worked for obviously various of jobs. Can you take me back to those days? You know, where was your mindset at that time?
Man, that was a long time ago. But when I think about it, it was so many opportunities, and some I converted on, and some I missed. You know, it was a certain time where I thought I was going to get back into school, and it was an NBA player that said he would pay for my school, and then it just came down to it at the last second. He decided not to, and for me, that affected me so much just because I looked up to him so much. You know, growing up in the Seattle scene, and I'm not going to say who it was, but you know, that was just a big blow for me. And after that, I could have quit and been like, oh man, I'm not, you know, it's just too hard. It's just this, it's just that. But no, I just kept going. And then, you know, I'm getting back into college. It's so crazy because here I am, I'm working at a furniture store. This is after my first year at community college. I drop out. So I'm on probation. I have no reason to want to even think that I can go Division 1. You know, I'm at the lowest points.
You
I'm
say
working
that in
at
the documentary as well, and I found it crazy.
yeah, you know, it was just literally an idea that popped in my head, like maybe I can do this. And once I just started working out and I got a job and I got to go to school and I got to go learn math and I got to go to math club for eight hours because I don't know what calculus is. You know, I haven't done calculus since high school. And, you know, I'm looking at these problems and I'm like, no, this works. You know, I can figure out how to do this. And once you just make up in your mind that you're going to do something and nothing is going to stop you, you're going to fail so many times in between. You're going to have those times where you're like, I'm not doing this. You're going to have those weeks where you're like, I'm done. But as long as you just keep coming back to it, I finally got to Arizona State. I was 20, about to be 21. That's unheard of, you know, to be like, you know, I'm gonna go play for one of the biggest divisions, you know, in college basketball. And it was crazy.
And before you went to Arizona State, correct me if I'm wrong, you had a 3.7 GPA in right? You were on top of your classes. You were doing everything you could in order to, you know, get to Arizona State and play D1 basketball.
I don't know if my mom's watching, but in high school, I was always, you know, I was honors classes. My mom did not allow me to not be good in school. It just got to the point where I got old enough. I was like, I'm good at basketball. I'm not doing this anymore. And she could kind of see me starting to spiral out of control. But once I got to Edmonds, it wasn't the fact of is to work hard. It was just if I was going to do it or not. And you know, it was 10 years ago, but just that split decision in time to say, I'm on probation. Every week, probation officers have to come to my home and check to see if there's alcohol in my home. I have to go and visit them, and I have to take drug tests, and they have to, like, they're always watching me. I can't get into any trouble. You know, I have to go to classes. I have to go to practice. And on the court, I have to have the best season that this, you know, league has ever seen.
Crazy.
And all of those dominoes just fell into it just fell in order. And the craziest part is what people don't understand is after my season at junior college, I literally sat on a computer in the lobby of one of the apartment homes on campus, and every day I'm shooting my highlight tape out to every single college. I'm going to colleges. I'm looking at the assistant, the weightlifting coach, the head coach. I'm sending all of my emails out. And this is every single time I do this, it's 200 times that I have to, you know, send out, click this name, click this name, click this name. So this is taking me an hour and a half, 2 hours every day. And my best friend, you know, he can attest because he's sitting there with me. And he's like, oh, don't forget this school. Don't forget this school. So we're just sending this out, and coaches are replying, and they're like, your highlights are amazing. How many years do you have? And at the time, I only had 1 year of eligibility because I was so old. But I didn't even get to Arizona State because of that. I got in contact with a guy at Division II, which is lower than Division I.
Yeah.
And just randomly, because he seen my persistence, he reached out to a coach at Arizona State. And that's how I got on to Arizona State. It wasn't because I sent out all these highlight tapes, but if I didn't send out these highlight tapes, I would have never had the opportunity for him to see me or if I would have never made the tape. I sat on a computer and I made my highlight tape that was 20 minutes long. I had to download cutting. This is before I knew anything about Premiere Pro. And I'm sitting in front of the computer, my eyes are burning, and I'm just 3 o'clock in the morning, next day, 4 o'clock in the morning. This is happening over 10 straight days. And I'm like, oh my God.
Just imagine if you didn't do that.
Exactly, but people don't understand. It was hard. It was so hard, and it was so easy to say, "I'm just gonna, see if somebody's gonna come find me."
And after you arrived in Arizona, however, and you got your chance, how did that feel? How did your life change?
I wasn't ready, man. I wasn't ready. It was too much, too fast. Like, even to this day, if I could go back with what I know now, I would be in the NBA. But at that time, it was like my confidence level just shrunk. I went from being the best player unanimously, in a league, to being on a much bigger platform with, I'm playing with Jahi Carson, Jermaine Marshall, Jordan Paczynski, all of these guys. I'm like, oh my God, you guys have all had names. I'm going up against Rondé Hollis Jefferson, Nick Johnson, Aaron Gordon. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Your story is incredible. I guess.
And hold up, Ray Mack, what's good, G Blakes? But Ray Mack, he's he's playing in China now, but he was in Euroleague
Yeah,
too.
he says you were supposed to come to Detroit.
It was funny because his dad was recruiting me to Detroit. I go to his father's house. It's this big blow up of him, I think Gatorade Player of the Year. And then his dad calls him, and Ray's like, yo, you need to come to Detroit. So at that point, I'm like, it's signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm going to Detroit. I'm in the airport, and I'm like, okay, send me the papers. I'm about to come. I literally take off, and I land in Seattle, and I say, something doesn't feel right. Like, I know there's bigger opportunities out there.
But, and then Arizona happened.
And then Arizona State happens. Maybe a month later, they call me, and they're like, yo, you just got to pass these classes. And I was like, yeah, and that was just betting on myself. But not to say there was anything wrong with going to Detroit, because Ray went to Detroit, then he got drafted to the NBA, but he was also a hell of a player.
Yeah. What life advice can you give to our younger audience right now, after everything you've been through, ups and downs?
It's super hard to accomplish what you want to accomplish in life. There's no easy way to do it. Life isn't a video game. It's really, really hard. And that's why I stay out of the way. I'm just always doing something in my home. I'm not out in public. I'm chasing my dreams every single day, just at my house. And it's just like, I know how hard it takes if I want to start this, say it's a YouTube channel, I know how hard that's going to be. If I want to start a podcast, I know how hard that's going to be. If I want to start anything, I know how hard it's going to be. And I think kids are just got it confused on thinking it's really easy, but it's super hard to excel in something and be great at it.
Okay, let's change the tune a little bit and get into the rapid fire questions. And
gotcha.
Okay, so that's gonna be like quick questions, quick answers. Best EuroLeague player right now, in your opinion?
I mean, of course, it's Shane Larkin as far as season goes, but I like Mike James better as a player, but Shane Larkin's having an unbelievable year.
Toughest defender you've ever played against?
Ah, man, these guys they're not even playing basketball now, but the toughest defender, who had some good defenders in the Champions League this year? It was a guy from Dijon. It was a guy from Ike. I wish they knew their names. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
You said from Dijon.
Yeah, it was a 3-man. He was a really good defender. It was a lot of good defenders in the Champions League this year in our bracket. And Nick Johnson's a good defender. I wouldn't say he was my best defender, but he's a good defender.
Who was the toughest player to guard?
Oh man, it was so many this year. You got David Holston from Dijon. I got switched on him a couple times. You got You got Trey Golden from Boston. He's a problem. You got what's this guy's name? Those are, and it's probably one more that I'm missing. God, I don't want to forget him. But yeah, we can go with those two.
The guy you said the best defensive player, the toughest defender, was he Richard Solomon from Dijon?
Yeah. I believe it was Richard Solomon.
Yeah.
If not, it was another guy's name, but it was one of those two. It was a 2-guy or a 3-guy.
Mm-hmm. Toughest arena to play at?
This year for me, Maccabi, my first EuroLeague game.
Mm-hmm.
My ears were bleeding.
I think next year, because you're gonna play in more EuroLeague games, you'll have a more
Yeah, for sure.
You're gonna play in all arenas, so you have a pretty good idea of
for sure
everything. Favorite EuroLeague player to watch?
That's a good question. My favorite player to watch, it has to be again Mike James, and Shane. You know, they're both fun to watch for sure.
EuroLeague's best starting 5 if you had to pick.
Okay. We can go Shane at the 1, Mike James at the 2. They're interchangeable. They both can bring the ball up. I will put myself at the 3 just because I like what I can do. The 4 and the 5 position. You got to forgive me because my 5-man from this year, his name, my center now for Olympiacos.
Milutinov.
Yeah.
Nikola
I'm not good. Yeah, Nikola.
Yeah.
Man, I got to practice with him for a week straight, and I was like, oh my God, like the way he set screens are unbelievable. But
really,
you know, he got injured. Yeah, he got injured. I have to throw my guy Tonye Jakiri. I will put Tonye at the 5 and Nikolai at the 4. I will have 2 bigs for the 4 and the 5.
Wow.
They just got to set screens.
Most clutch EuroLeague player.
Most clutch EuroLeague player? Probably just because he did it to us this year, Wilbekin.
Scotty Wilbekin.
Yeah.
Best trash talker you've ever played against?
Bobby Dixon talked a lot of trash.
Really?
Which I don't know why. The funniest part is, like, it would be something during the game because, you know, my first ever Europe game in Turkey, I played Fenerbahce and we beat them. So it's like the respect is there, but Bobby talks a little bit. He doesn't talk crazy, but he talks a little bit. Slukas doesn't say anything. I tried to talk to Slukas before. He doesn't say anything, but I would probably say Bobby, for me at least.
Are you a trash talker?
No, I don't say anything. If guys talk to me, I'll laugh. That's about the most that I'll do. But I don't really say anything.
One EuroLeague player you'd love to see in the NBA?
I think Mike James. Mike James and maybe Tavares and Nikola. All these guys. There's so many players that could play in the NBA.
This is a what if scenario. Would an elite EuroLeague team make the Eastern Conference playoffs?
Real Madrid, if there was a team. I think they would be able to.
Do you think they would be able to make it?
Yeah, I think they would be. Maybe not the first year, but the second or third year, I think they would get better for sure.
Favorite moment so far of your career?
I would have to say beating Panathinaikos for sure. That's number 1. Beating or scoring 38 on Ephes has to be number 2. There was a lot of, moments this year where I could say, wow, that was incredible.
Another one is your ultimate career goal.
I think to just finish out these next 3 or 4 years or 4 or 5 years, however many years, just at the top of my game, I want to be a different player than I've been over the years. I've just been known to, I can dunk the ball, but I think people are realizing that I'm kind of unstoppable. When I get the ball in my hands on pick and rolls or in the fast break, it's not just dunking. A lot of guys can dunk. I may make it look good, but there's so much more to it than that.
One underrated part of your game. What you just said.
Yeah, I mean, underrated part, I think just IQ. I think on the basketball court, I think I have a really good IQ, but it gets looked over because so many other guys with better IQs than mine. So,
Mhm.
but playing in the EuroLeague with better players, it makes it easier.
Is there any NBA player right now that you think your game is similar to?
No, no, I'm
No.
not answering that question. No, no, those guys in the NBA are unreal. I think if I were able to get in that atmosphere, I would be a much, better player. But that's why I'm working this summer so I can really, impress people next year.
Mm-hmm. One crazy or different story you can share from your career in Europe.
Man, there's so many. There's so many that involve. You got to understand the type of guys that I play with. I play with, Jordan Theodore, Mark Lyons,
Yeah.
James Mike McAdoo. So it's like so many stories. I
I
can't
think I
narrow
saw
it.
him in the comments, James Magadou.
Yeah, yeah. Mac is my guy. Him and Todrick. Man, if I really had to think, let me think for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really just too many. But one day I'll come out with something and let everybody know how crazy it is in Europe. I've gotten used to it.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Lucas? We can play COD after this. That's my Call of Duty player. That's my guy. I
That's
got
your
to give him a shout out.
that's your favorite activity during isolation.
Um, yeah, and helping my wife cook a little bit. I just stand there and just say, "You should do this. You should do that."
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Another one I saw in the comments is if you regret not taking the shot against the Maccabi in the final
Oh my
possession
God.
and you decided to pass.
Yeah, but that's something. God, I mean, that just let me know where I was at in my game. That just made my confidence go even higher because I have to think about this every single second on the flight home on why I didn't take
Wow.
that shot. So it's just like immediately I'm happy that happened my first EuroLeague game because I know now that will never happen again.
Yeah.
So it's just all about confidence.
Mm-hmm. Some more rapid fire questions. What type of music do you listen to before a game?
Everything, man. I listen literally everything from Little Uzi Vert to Miley Cyrus to the Migos to Nipsey
Wow.
Hussle to Drake. I just
Wow.
have this big playlist, and if you pop up on this playlist and I'm feeling it at the time, it's just like I just let it go. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing specific, but there is one big playlist.
Mm-hmm. Another what if scenario. Thumbs up or thumbs down on EuroLeague having an All-Star game?
Uh, Thumbs up.
Would you like to see like a Team Europe versus Team World setup?
It would have to be, I think. And I don't know if Team World, I mean, if Team World or Team, I don't know who would win, but I like that format. I just wouldn't want to be in the dunk contest, please. No.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing in the comments, your wife is in the comments and she's like, you're not helping out with cooking. That's your line.
Yeah, I'm gonna get beat up when I close the live, but I'm helping a little bit.
Another one is thumbs up or thumbs down on getting rid of the Final Four format and following, NBA's playoff format.
No, I think a best of three. I think it's currently best of five in the first rounds
Mm-hmm.
before the Final Four. Best of five is too unanimous. The better team is more than likely gonna win that. But if you go best of three, it leaves a lot up. It makes it better for the underdog team to actually have a chance.
Mm-hmm. Favorite player growing up?
Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm. Those are some great guys.
Yeah, I usually go with the best.
Mm-hmm. Giannis or LeBron James for the MVP this season?
I think Giannis should win it, but LeBron James is the better player, and LeBron should probably have 8 or 9 MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
MVPs don't matter. We know Giannis will never be as good as LeBron James, as good as Giannis is.
Mm-hmm.
I hear all these stories. Being at Olympiacos of guys that played on the national team with him, and
Yeah.
they say he's a super humble
Yeah,
guy.
humble
He's
guy.
he's a really good basketball player at that, but he's playing unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. If the NBA season were to continue, who do you think was going to win it all?
LeBron, not the Lakers.
Lakers.
LeBron, LeBron.
By himself.
He deserved it.
Do you think he's the greatest of all time, or do you think Michael Jordan is the greatest?
Man, I've seen too many full games of Michael Jordan growing up, just watching back. They used to have the DVDs, the kids will never know. It was DVDs of the playoff runs where, they show every game. It's not just highlights. And
Yeah.
just watching that, it was just much different. So I
Hmm.
think for sure Michael Jordan is the better player, but LeBron James might end up more accomplished.
So right now your vote would be Michael Jordan.
Yeah, but if I'm starting a team, I'm choosing LeBron James.
Hmm. Have you been able to watch The Last Dance yet? The
Yeah,
documentary.
yeah, I started it, but about 15 minutes in, my wife she became obsessed with Dennis Rodman, so we cut it off and we watched Dennis Rodman's 30 for 30 on ESPN. So we watched that for an hour and a half. I actually have to go back and rewatch the first two
Okay.
episodes.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that was it. Thank you so much for being part of it and for having you on here. Eurohoops Locked on the third episode.
Gotcha.
If you don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, no, it was thank you for having me, man. It was a dope experience. I just have one question that you have to figure out for me because the week against Panathinaikos, Tavares won MVP of that week, of the EuroLeague week.
Yeah.
And I think he had 12 points and 12 rebounds.
Hmm.
What I don't understand, and his PIR maybe was 40. He's 7 foot tall. How hard is it to grab 12 rebounds? And that's what I don't understand in Europe with this PIR, with these everybody's 7 feet tall, and they're supposed to grab the rebounds, and they get so much PIR for that. But that's just me. That you should think about that.
I can't answer that. I'm not EuroLeague. I
I
don't
think I
know.
think an assist or a steal is better than a rebound when you're 7 feet tall. But
Hmm.
rebounds are good and important, so I'll say that. But
Okay.
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Got you. Talk to you soon, bro.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.